Can you tell us a bit about why you started GloveGlu?
Yeah, so a bit of background about me. I've had 30 years in sporting goods and was super active as a kid. Loved sport. Played county tennis, county athletics, every school sports team I think I was in. Sport was my life. So I probably always thought about having, building a business brand in and around sport. Spent a lot of my time working with different brands and rolling into kind of late 90s, early noughties. Had a business that was basically working with predominantly European-based sports brands. Did some stuff with Adidas on a drinks project, and Uhlsport, a goalkeeping glove brand, and McDavid, an American sports supports brand, and Ironman products, and Spalding Basketball, who were the ball of the NBA at the time. So lots of experience in and around brands. And got to 2019. Well, got to 2011, and I'll tell you the GloveGlu story in more detail.
Yeah.
But 2019, I got to the situation where it's like, okay, let's go full in on this GloveGlu thing. So GloveGlu was a side gig originally, and it evolved, and I'm sure we'll learn more about this, more about the journey as we carry on talking.
So when did you decide to go full in? Like, when was the time where you made that switch and you were confident in that?
Full in for GloveGlu. So as I said, we launched in 2012. Our very first order was June 2012. It was a side gig. Had other business interests. It tickled along. And 2019, I said to my wife, "Look, I'm going to be 50 next year." So I was going to be 50 in 2020.
Yeah.
I think this GloveGlu thing's got some legs. I think I've kind of cut my teeth now in the industry. I think I've got a good understanding as to how global sports brands operate, having been working with many of them inside many of them for many years. I kind of get it. Are you prepared to remortgage the house, completely roll the dice, and go for it? And she's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Let's go for it. So the all-in moment was 2019 to try and end of 2019, early 2020, in fact, to try and get some cash by remortgaging. And COVID obviously arrived, but COVID actually, looking back, maybe was a bit of a silver lining, because having gone to HSBC at the end of 2019 and said, hello, I'm Paul Sherratt. I'm trying to build a global sports brand called GloveGlu. Will you lend me some money? They laughed me out of the bank. And some 3 months later, they were going, hello, I'm HSBC, and we have a thing called a bounce back loan, because we know your business might struggle through COVID. So would you like £50,000? Of which I said, thank you very much, HSBC. I will take your £50,000 and add it to my remortgaging of my house. Then West Oxfordshire District Council reached out and said, hey, Paul, I know you're a small business in West Oxfordshire and you might struggle during COVID. So would you like £10,000? And I said, thank you very much, West Oxfordshire District Council. I will take your £10,000. So actually, interestingly, from a funding point of view, giving us some oxygen and some working capital to enable us to really kick on and go full time, it actually benefited us.
Amazing. Did you have any doubts? Like, remortgaging the house is quite the risk. Did you have any doubts this wasn't going to work out?
Any doubts that surface are deliberately pushed downwards and out of sight, because doubt leads to uncertainty, leads to okay, are we doing the right thing? So I think once we were in, you're in. This is not a half cock kind of. We're sort of in. You're in 100%.
No, that's a good point. But tell us about the very first step you took to launch GloveGlu. So if you had the idea, what was the first thing that you did?
There's no such product that existed on the marketplace to make goalkeeper gloves grippy. Needed to find, first and foremost, a chemist, somebody that potentially could turn my idea into reality. Didn't know whether at that stage it was going to be a spray or a paste, or actually how one would apply a sticky substance to goalkeeper gloves to make them last longer and perform better. Had a contact through one of my sales agents, actually. This guy at the time was a chemist and was working predominantly in and around the football boot market. Again, back in early noughties, some football boots were still made of leather, kangaroo leather, and this guy was working on chemical formulas to make the boots grippier or prevent them from getting excess mud on them, or various things. Approached him and said, look, here's my idea. What do you think? He's like, yeah, I think we can make that work. that was the very first step. The next step was then he started to send me little bottles with some milky coloured sticky liquid inside them. One of my core clients in my core business at the time was Allsport, one of the world's biggest goalkeeping glove brands, and therefore through my contact with Allsport, I was already working with Hugo Lloris at Spurs and Pepe Reina at Liverpool and UC Jääskeläinen at Bolton and some of the leading Premier League keepers at the time. So started sending the aforementioned milky, sticky liquids to these guys to test, and to coaches, and to grassroots players. And that testing process was pretty critical because it was, first and foremost, is there any need for this thing? And we established pretty quickly, yes, there was. Why? Because goalkeeper gloves are made of latex, the palms are made of latex, and therefore they wear away. And therefore, even if they're the grippiest goalkeeper gloves you've ever seen out of the packet, they will inevitably lose their grip. So there was definitely demand for it. And secondly, what people want some psychological advantage. They're putting a grippy stuff on their gloves and so on and so forth. So we established people wanted it. We went through the testing phase, and after 8 months, we had a product that was the right level of grippiness.
Amazing.
And we applied it by a finger spray, so in a bottle with a finger spray, so it basically spread it across the palm of your gloves. You could rub your gloves together. Hey, we've cracked this. This is great. Went back to the chemist and said, I think we've cracked it. We've got this is exactly right. This is the Goldilocks moment. She's tasted the porridge. This is the one. And chemist turned around and said, that's fantastic. There's one slight problem with that. No, what is the problem? The current product that you've tested is highly flammable. Oh, okay, right. We're not going to be able to send a highly flammable liquid around the world, are we? So, cut a long story short, another probably 6 months of new formulation to get back to the point that we got to with the flammable liquid. We got there in the end, and got our very first order in June 2012.
Two things come to mind when you say this. Number one is, how many samples do you reckon you made until you got to that final product?
So we're not the James Dyson, who I think was something like
thousands, wasn't it?
Yeah,
5,000
Yeah.
different prototypes. We're probably in the tens of samples, not the probably 10 to 20 different formulations. I was quite lucky that even off the bat, quite early doors, the very first ones that came through were already showing signs of doing the job that we wanted it to do. So, we had a good start.
And the second one is following up from that is, how much do you reckon you spent on them samples until you got to that final product?
Absolutely nothing. Basically, the conversation and the relationship with the chemist was, look, this is the idea. Can you make it for us? Can we find the right formulation? And obviously, if you can, then we will buy it from you going forward. So he again took a punt on us, the idea, or that potentially if we could get this to work, that he would be getting his money back on his small sample investment by putting a margin on the final product that he sold to us. And indeed, he did that for over 10 years with us, until 3 or 4 years ago we kind of moved to a different supplier and got new formulations, kind of improved the product somewhat, and we just evolved and we moved on.
So tell us about how you got your first customer.
Again, you've got to understand, I was quite lucky. Okay, so I was working with Allsport, basically representing the brand in the UK and Ireland. I had 6 sales guys on the road, customer care, credit control, and the relationship with Allsport was, they produce goalkeeping gloves and goalkeeping apparel and teamwear and so on. So I already had relationships with UK goalkeeping glove buying customers.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me to pick up the phone to Just Keepers, who are still around today. So picked up the phone to Dave and Ian at Just Keepers and said, guys, I've got this product I'd like to come and show you. Drove up to Leicester, sat in their headquarters and presented GloveGlu, one product, a spray and goalkeeping gloves. And we all sat around going, okay, we had no idea whether it was going to sell, I wasn't going to sell, and they're e-commerce only, and went live, and immediately I think I probably, let's say it went live on the Monday, I probably called them on the Friday, and they're like, yeah, we've sold 20 or whatever the number was. Yeah, oh, okay, okay. So we knew, and then very, very quickly, you started to get people writing about this product. You started to get content being written. Social media wasn't in 2012 what it is today, but even started to get some social comments and started to get some Reddit posts and things like that. And people were going, "Oh, have you seen this GloveGlu thing? Oh, that's an interesting idea. Oh, yeah, does it work? Yeah, I'm not sure." And even memes of, I think we had a great meme that was flying around for a while, which was Simon Mignolet. Was the Liverpool goalkeeper for a while, and there was an image of him with his gloves, with his head in his hands, basically wearing goalkeeper gloves, with something in and around, the gloves have stuck to his face or something like that, which was highly amusing, but slightly viral, and just got people talking about what is this GloveGlu thing. So just keep us with the first guys. I have the order framed, and it sits in the toilet, actually, in Global, in our headquarters. I can't remember. I think it was something like a £500 order or something like that.
Amazing.
And you literally, so you just went to their office, you sat there, presented them the product, and then you got the order from that.
Correct.
So let's say there was like a young person that had a brand, had products. Could they just go to these offices and just try as many as they can from these retailers and hope that one hits?
Certainly one approach, and there are brands that still do this today. One approach is to camp on the doorstep of a buying office and prod and poke and cajole and hassle the buyer until such point where the buyer either says, right, you can disappear off, thank you very much, gentlemen, or says, okay, yeah, fine, come and show me what you've got. That is an approach, and I know, and probably there's examples. Or if you searched it up today and looked all over LinkedIn for it, you would probably find somebody that's done that and had a highly successful brand. I think the point is, a lot of these buyers are super busy. They are oftentimes under-resourced. So I had a conversation with a very, very, very big global sports retailer yesterday, who basically has lost two teammates within his department. I'm pushing him hard to say, look, you really need to get these orders across to us. And he's kind of going, yeah, I've kind of got no one that can do that at the moment. We're trying to recruit internally and blah, blah, blah. So often they're very busy. They're very pushed. Often they're given multiple suppliers to deal with in my sort of categories. Even this buyer, and I won't name the retailer, but it's probably a good example. Last time I sat in front of him, I said, look, are you okay with me hassling you, dropping you regular emails, just pushing you, prodding you and poking you? He's like, yeah, that's no problem at all. So I think tenacity is potentially the name of the game. Some buyers will just ghost you, and I would rather them take responsibility and either say, thank you very much, it's not for us. And I had an instance this week of that ilk. Or I'd rather do that than ghost. And I'll give you the example of this week. I'm in Cape Town at the moment. I'm just outside of Cape Town, and I felt there was an opportunity in Sportsman's Warehouse. There's 50 stores roughly in South Africa of Sportsman's Warehouse stores. They sell goalkeeper gloves, albeit lower priced. I feel there's an opportunity for us as a business and a brand. And so this is a direct analogy we can take to, as you said, a young person with a brand. What do? This is what I did. Yeah. First and foremost, I reached out to my LinkedIn community and said, hey, anybody know the buyer of Sportsman's Warehouse? Secondly, I phoned their head office and said, who's the buyer? Head office, and this is often the case these days, head office will not give you that information. Sometimes they do. Probably 9 times out of 10 they don't. In fact, head office here was really a customer care kind of operation, so they weren't able to help me. I tried some deep dive social media searches. Eventually, actually, thought, hang on a minute, maybe back in the day, I've also tried to contact Sportsman's Warehouse, which a young brand won't have this advantage. And I found an email that I'd sent in 2017 to a particular buyer, and reached back out to who had said no at the time. And I'd forgotten this because that's 9 years ago. Reached back out to the buyer who'd said no, who said basically, actually, I'm not the buyer anymore. You need to speak to this person. So by the time my option then was, okay, I'll wait for said person to respond. If they don't respond, then on Wednesday next week, I am going to go and sit in Sportsman's Warehouse headquarters and wait until the buyer walks by and hassle them or whatever. Anyway, as it transpired, this particular buyer came back and said, First and foremost, their football category is not performing very well at the moment. Secondly, therefore, they're also not selling many goalkeeper gloves. And then thirdly, an upsell, cross-sell product like mine is not appropriate. But thank you very much. At least the buyer came back and responded, and now I don't have to go into Sportsman's Warehouse head office with a sleeping bag and try and hassle him.
How often do you do that? So how often do you go to, like, how do you reach out to these companies and ask them, can you stock us?
Marketplace is constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. I've got 2 or 3 big global prospects where either I don't have a partner or distributor at the moment, or whereby I'd like to deal direct with them through our head office, because it would be a better, because the margins are going to be super tight because they're a big box chain with lots of stores and so on and so forth. So it is a weekly task for me to cajole, push, hassle, try and find out who I should be talking to, etc., etc. So from a sales perspective, the business is now mature in terms of A, making sure that we regularly give our existing customers lots of love. B, listen to them. What do they want? What's working? What isn't working? Are we missing something? And C, continue to drive the pipeline by looking for new prospects, new markets, new opportunities. So I don't think, as a growing business, that process should never stop. If you're B2C, obviously a different beast. But if you have aspirations to be B2B wholesaling into, in my instance, sports shops, but if into retail, then I don't think that process stops.
I feel like it's quite rare that you see B2B talked about. You usually just hear B2C. Now, how much emphasis do you put on B2C compared to B2B? Like, what's the balance there?
It's a great question. I think I'll answer that in a second, but the first part of your question, you don't see many people talking about B2B. I think that's right. And I think I'm going to sound generationalist here, if there's such a word. I think your generation has the huge advantage that you have social media to reach an audience. You have with Shopify a very, very easy to set up out of the box e-commerce platform. You have now TikTok shops coming to the forefront. You have Amazon. You have many, many channels, and arguably channels that are way easier, that you're in 100% control of to launch your products than maybe existed 10, 20 years ago. So I think the play for your generation now, for most new companies, not all, but most new companies, is, okay, we're going to drive the community play. We're going to drive social. We're going to drive B2C. We're going to build that as a business first. If we then start to gain some traction, 2 things will happen. Either when we pick up the phone and try and speak to a buyer, they're going to go, yeah, I've seen your brand, actually. Yeah, I'd love to come and chat. Or the proactive buyer, and this particularly happens in grocery, is going, hello, guys. Yeah, I've seen your brand. I've seen your product. Let's have a chat. So B2B then becomes a secondary play. With my business being, as I said, a different generation, and having grown up very much working with the vast majority of brands where the only marketplace play was a B2B play, that's my world. That's my background. I would sit in international sales meetings with other people from other parts of the world, representing the same brands that I was representing, and telling them about GloveGlu, and they would go, well, maybe I could sell that in my market. So I was able to build my B2B side of the business through my contacts and my relationships, and which is the reason why we have a global brand in 55 countries around the world. So, but actually, what does that mean for for the GloveGlu business. It actually means that our B2C side is the smallest part of our business because we've done it in the reverse. So your Jen might go, well, we'll go B2C, and B2C is suddenly is 80, 90% of our business, and B2B is 10%. We're the other way around, which is a little bit frustrating for me. The advantage for me is it's arguably easier now for us to really, really focus and invest on building our B2C channel because that is under our control. So we will find over the next 3 to 5 years that, that will end up being a third B2C, a third B2B, a third marketplace. We don't have that ratio at the moment. We're more like sort of 40, 40, 20.
How are you aiming to do that?
Yeah, I think our biggest play actually is going to be localization. So we need to put stock in US, for example, stock into Europe, B2C stock I'm talking about, and avoid then fulfilling B2C orders from UK warehouse that we're doing at the moment, which on the one hand is fine, but on the other hand, if we use a back-end tool called what is it called? Global E, which basically gives the end consumer, if you're in France and you're looking to buy a GloveGlu product, Global E will calculate and present to you as the end consumer in France the additional freight and duty and any tariffs that you're going to pay. So the end price that you pay is the end price that you see, which is good. So there are no shocks to the end consumer. The downside is, in that context, it makes us expensive. It makes it expensive for the end consumer to buy a product from GloveGlu.com. If they're in France, they would be better off buying it from a French retailer that we've sold to via B2B, because the French retailer is going to sell at retail price and no additional tariffs and duty and all these sorts of things. So one way to get, or the way to get around that, is to have stock in this instance in France, and for the order to be fulfilled from France, and then the consumer then pays a cheaper price and gets the product quicker. So, and that's typically the B2C play that you will see.
Interesting.
Let's take the Gymsharks of the world. You start off with a UK site, and then you localize and go into multiple language, multiple territories, stock in multiple markets to scale. We haven't done that yet.
Yes, there we go.
There you go.
I want to talk about product placement. So you get into these stores, and is there like a particular place that you like? Let's just say Sports Direct, for example. Where are you placing the product, and how are you advertising that product in store? So, you see like the fancy, I don't know what they call them. There's a technical term for them, I'm sure, where they like advertise them on the shelf, etc.
The sports industry is, in that context, not as sophisticated as grocery is. If for them to embrace shelf talkers or point of purchase or gondola ends or shop-in-shop systems, any of that tends to, not solely, tends to be very focused on the major brands within each category at multiple level. When you go into specialist level, it's a couple of things. We rolled out in the last 18 months a CDU, a counter display unit proposition. So a self-shipper box that when the box lands in store, there's 15 bottles of GloveGlu in the box, and you rip off the top, and the box merchandises itself, and it looks super nice on shelf and helps guide the consumer. Many multiples around the world won't entertain that. They want to maintain their look and feel of the store and not have lots of different types of point of sale and different messages and different things. Those that do often will say, yeah, sure, you can certainly come and have a little slice of our store for a fee. And again, grocery, of course, is entirely driven by that kind of approach. If you want to take some shelf space, by all means, in Tesco, by all means, you can pay a large sum for it. It doesn't exist as much in sporting goods. For us, specifically from a product point of view, in store, our product sells, if it is merchandise, alongside goalkeeper gloves. It's a classic upsell, cross-sell product. Now, what that means is if a retailer doesn't put the product next to goalkeeping gloves, then they won't get the results that they should get. And therefore, they'll be disappointed. And despite me jumping up and down and saying, guys, Well, the reason why GloveGlu is not performing in your store is because it's in the wrong place. Some retailers will not take on that advice and go, well, thank you very much. We perhaps won't list you anymore. That happened with us with Sports Direct, in fact. We had a 12-store
And that must be
trial.
frustrating.
The product
Yeah.
was not in the place that it should be. Incredibly frustrating, because I know if they follow the guidelines and rules that we give them, the incremental business opportunity for them is quite substantial. So, again, we had a customer last year, and the pitch to them that won us the business was, listen, guys, if you take on GloveGlu as a product range, first and foremost, we're not kicking out an incumbent supplier. This is a completely new incremental business opportunity that we value at the moment for you as a £1 million business opportunity. And here's the numbers that substantiate that we know you're going to sell 0.63 units per store per week, and extrapolate that out. If you stock 5 of our lines at this sell-through rate of whatever it is, and a margin of X, this is your business opportunity. We're now in a situation where we can almost guarantee that's the level of the level of business that any retailer may or may not get if they follow the simple rules that are put the product next to goalkeeping gloves. And those that do so come back and go, thank you very much. It was an incremental business opportunity. Yes, it's new margin for us. Yes, it's new revenue. Yes, we followed your guidelines. What else can we do with you? This is really working.
Paul, it's been great to talk to you and hear your story. Can you just give a young 20-year-old a bit of business advice if they're listening today?
I think you just got to do it. I think if you're a young 20-something, then the element of risk is way smaller than the risk that I had at 50, going all in, remortgaging the house, taking on debt. If you're in your 20s, you can go, you can fail, you can go again. I think culturally in the UK, we're not great at encouraging that approach. If you compare us to the US, they're very good at encouraging the 20-somethings to go out and do it and give it a go. And they're also very great at not being critical if said 20-something fails at their first or second or third attempt. You've just got to keep going. If you truly believe that you've got something that's going to work, then I think you've got to stick with it.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.